So we have been using this product, TVU Producer, for I guess around the last 3 or 4 shows. Last week talking with Robin Wu, James Croston as well, and now I decided that we wanted to have the mind behind the product, right? I know he's going to be very humble and he's going to take probably not enough credit for where we're at in it, but I have Mateus here, the TVU product manager of TVU Producer. Mateus, how are you today, man?
I'm good. And you, Josh?
I'm
Thank you
doing
for the
okay.
invite, and glad to be here talking to you, and being able to talk a little bit more about the product in a in a lighter way, right?
Yeah, 100%. So, real quick, let's talk about this is not our first time kind of going over Producer, right? Me and you did
Right.
a whatchamacallit. We did a webinar with Blackbird that got a lot of really good response. People were very excited about it. And I can kind of talk about the switching of the sources and adding sources and how party line. We've kind of done that before, right? So I don't want to get in. I'm not interested in like, we know that it can handle a multi-cam production. You can add phones to it. But I just wanted to give you the chance to kind of talk about Producer, right? And make
Right.
sure that our audience, our potential customers, our customers, whatever it is, make sure that they know what's possible. And so my first question I kind of have for you is, how did Producer come to be, right? Like how did we get here? Was it an idea that our CEO had? Was it a customer that came to us? Can you kind of talk about the birth of TVU Producer, so to speak?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I joined the company in 2018, and by the time, surprisingly, producer was already there, even though it was still a moment where cloud production was, it was already being discussed, but it wasn't like such a trend as it is today, right? And it's a must. Like today, it became a must-have, right? By 2018, we were starting to talk about it, right? And of course, Paul is the mind behind it, right? And the thing is, like, when you think about TVU, starting in 2005, with it was a software product just for delivery of content, and then became something else until the point it reached to the packs and transceivers. That was 2009 or 11. I don't remember exactly. So that was the beginning, right? But producer came in 2000. I think it was 15 or 16, so 2 years before I joined.
Oh, wow.
Just as a version, it was integrated into the TVU transceiver. So it was actually based on a physical device, right? Which is like completely out of what producer is today, and what, all most of the benefits that we talk about producer is being cloud based. And and the first version of it, it wasn't, right? So it's quite interesting to know that. Of course, Paul and Matt were the ones talking to me, because I was not there by the moment. But 2018, when I joined, like producer was still like starting. It was already 100% cloud based. And in the last few years, I would say, 2019 and 20, there was a big like revolution or change to producer, where we started to have a much enhanced architecture, making it separate into microservices, and being, making it, deploying it in a way that it can be reused for multiple purposes and multiple products, right? So features that are done for one product in TVU can be reused for, um, basically all the portfolio. So producer evolved a lot, not of course a lot in the front end on the user facing, um, when you think about it, but there was a lot in behind on the, behind the scenes that were done as well, in terms of optimizations that the user may not know, but it makes a huge difference in terms of um, how robust the product becomes.
Yeah, there's a couple things that I want to hit on. There's something that's kind of happening in real time here that you might be aware of or you may not be aware of, and it's something that I think is key to this whole cloud production. Is you're getting a little bit of lag on your part, right? Like, and it sounds fine. It's not the end of the world, but that's the reality of sometimes connections, right? Like connections can go up or down, people joining your Wi-Fi, whatever it can
Mhm.
be. But the production is staying up, right? My feed isn't going to your computer. I'm not drawing any resources from there. Can you talk a little bit about kind of how that works, right? Just like the 30,000 point view over producer, right? Like I am not connected to Mateus's computer right now. You're not losing resources with my feed. I'm connected to the cloud instance. And so even if you were to drop out right now with no internet, this feed, everything is going to stay up. We just lose you, and then I can continue controlling the show. Correct? Can you kind of walk us through those steps?
Yeah, sure. So Producer is, as I said, it's 100% cloud-based service. What that means, it means that whenever you're starting a session of Producer, you don't require any kind of hardware. Anything needs to be, you don't rely on something that is connected to 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 the power. And if you lose power, you lose the
Hmm.
the production itself. So basically, whenever you start Producer, you are starting an instance in AWS, right? So it's just a virtual machine. So you don't rely actually. So of course, our partners they have such a structure and architecture where we don't rely on a physical machine. Of course, there by the end there is a how do you say that, there is a data center where everything is everything's there running, but by the end it's just like small pieces in separate places, right, in separate machines. So when you spin up a VM, it's just a resource. It's a small resource that could be shared in multiple machines, right? And it can be rearranged in real time. So if something happens, the chance is zero, right? We are talking about 99.9999%, right? So um, there is no chance of uh, that a session would drop just because power connection was lost or something like that. From the user perspective, now talking about like what the user is facing here, it's basically all you're seeing from the interface are previews, right? So that's another question that we get a lot is about, oh, the quality of the preview is not very good. So that means my output is also very low quality. That's not true. So actually you have streams that could be, I'm talking about like high quality, could be like 30 megabits per second streams, right? This is a very high quality stream. You could have 10 of those going to producer, very high quality, but it doesn't mean that you need 30 megabits times 10 to preview all of them in your interface. We don't
Mm,
need that because the resources would be almost impossible, right? You would need, I mean, not impossible. Today, it's a very normal situation to have like one, uh, you know, gig, gigas per second, you know, download and upload in your house. It wasn't in, 5 years ago, but now it is. But even then, it's very resource consuming for the device that is controlling producer to have such like big bandwidth coming uh, into your connection. So what we do, we just create proxies of those streams, and we're talking about like 1 megabits per second, 1.5 megabits per second, depending on what position it's here on the UI. But this is completely sufficient for the director, for the person that is taking decisions on video cuts to define, to preview that and see what they need to have on program, right? It's more than sufficient. And in advantage to that, it's much easier for the device to handle, smaller, bit rates and smaller resolutions, and have like a much better response to the control of the user. That's why all the controls that we do here they are real time. We are not waiting for a certain action to happen. If you click video cut, that's going to happen right away.
Wow. Yeah, that's, I mean, you put it incredibly well, and I think it's important. Or I guess we, because you're a part of it as well, we supported a Twitch streamer who is using TVU Producer and TVU Anywhere to go live from Twitch, or to go live to Twitch from a venue, and it was one thing I acted um, as the control person to kind of help him out, and you're right, at times, he was in very bad low signal area, and I would watch the preview and I would be like, "Okay, how good is the quality?" And I would watch the broadcast, which is the most important part, and it was
Exactly.
way clearer. It was more clear. Obviously, if he hit a dead spot right, he hit a dead spot. There's nothing you can do about that, right? Like,
Yeah,
if we
yeah.
lose cell signal, but it was really cool to kind of see that happen in real time. So I want to get down into like the nitty gritty of it, right? So, guys, I'm hands off. Mateus is the one controlling it. Mateus, do me two things where you switch over so we can share the screen, and then just double check and make sure that the audio is not on audio follow video on.
6. Yep.
There we
Okay.
go. And we're back. Okay, Mateus, I want you to give us the full rundown. What's the secret sauce of the cool things we can do that people might not know about that I completely left off every time I've talked about producer? This is your time to shine.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, I've done hundreds and hundreds of demonstrations going through all the features that producer has, and I could spend hours with you here, going in details of every single point of producer. But I think, for this conversation, I think it's worth it to talk about things that people may not know that are available in producer, or they things that may have been added very recently, or it has been added a couple of months ago, but we have a way, we have data, sufficient data to see like what people are using, how they're using producer, and this is one of the things that allow us to do a development based on what's more important for users, right? And based on that, like, there are certain features that I think they're extremely valuable in certain ways, but sometimes people are not aware of it yet, right?
Hmm.
So one of the things that I think it's very nice in producer, what was added not long time ago, is that you can actually now, for any production that you create, you can have a offline setup. So people were always complaining about, like, I need to upload videos, I need to add my logos, I need to set up my inputs, and that takes usually like certain time. It takes, like, depending on how big the production is, it could take like an hour, right? But they would need to pay for setting up the production. They would need to start a VM, and by the moment they start a VM, you're being charged. So we added the offline setup, so many features in producer, they actually don't rely on the VM itself. It's just like
Hmm.
something you're just, for example, when you're uploading logos, you don't need the VM to be running. It's just like something you're adding to your S3 bucket, and then you retrieve that once the VM is alive, right? So output setup, overlay upload. If I want to set up singular flowix, it doesn't matter. If I want to upload logos, clip players, I could build my whole playlist. I could create workflows. I could set up auto failover, which is actually a new feature that I can talk about. I can set up my inputs. Everything is available here, and I don't need the VM for that. This is just information living on the database of that production, that once I start the session, then I retrieve all that information and pass that to the VM. But I don't need VM to be started for that specific action. Best thing, you're not being charged for doing any of that. You could spend 10 hours doing your setup and not a single penny is being charged from you, right?
Yeah, I think that's you're not the first person that I've heard talk about, you don't want to be charged if you're not you don't want to be charged for getting things ready for an event. And I'll be honest, did not know that was a thing. So that is super helpful to know that that's
Yep.
possible. I think that it just allows for, cost saving, and it makes sense. That's
Right.
that's that's huge, huge, 100%.
Yeah. And very important thing to mention is that when we develop things for um, producer, we always, it's part of TVU. It's part of the company. How can I say that, culture, that we need to listen to customers, right? And developments in producer, they are always, we always hear customers. We always want to hear from them. What are their pains? How could we improve their experience with the products, right? And this is something that, it's not only with producer. I'm talking about every product, but uh, you know, usually any SaaS um, product, it's easier in terms of like how quick we can develop and we can deliver. So it's funny that sometimes we can, customer can ask us something today and we can deliver a test version for them tomorrow. This is just amazing, and it has been working very, very nice. This discussion with customers and hearing from them and being able to deliver those needs in a very quick ways is very satisfying, right? So I will just give here some examples of things that has been developed based on customers' feedback, and some are not available yet in production. As I'm showing you the latest version of Producer, right?
We're getting
But
behind the curtains. We're getting to see the cool stuff.
yeah, and those things keeps being released very fast, right? I mean, of course, there is a testing period, and then we release that. But what I'm showing you here won't take more than a couple of weeks to be available for you, right? So one is auto failover feature. So a customer was worried about, like, what if I have my source in PGM, but my encoder stops working, and I have my backup encoder, but I don't have an operator always on the interface to do the switching. Okay, we came to a feature where you can select a primary slot, secondary slot. How long do you want to wait until your encoder is failing, until the auto switch is done? So you don't need to keep an operator here, because producer, even though it's a live production product, it can have different types of right? Use cases. And in this use case, there isn't much switching, but producer is taking an important role on adding overlays, recordings, so things that are necessary for the customer. And one of those was the auto failover. So very nice feature that will be available very soon. Something that is just like this is 100% operation. Uh, you know, uh, it's 100% related to the operation of producer, but it sounds simple, but it makes a ton of difference for certain customers. So so right now, producer has these workflow where you select the source, it goes to preview, it goes to PGM. You can disable the preview if you want, right? And
Mm, okay.
then if you select the source, it goes directly to PGM. But now they also want to keep the preview, but they want to be able to cut directly to PGM. So we added a, a feature where you can enable or disable. So, and that's another important thing to mention. Sorry to keep like connecting things, but
No,
it's
it's a
just
part of the
because
ecosystem.
yeah. So um, you the the user wants to be able to cut directly to PGM, but they want to keep preview as as a way to monitor what they're going to have available. And this is it's a normal operation in a on-premise switcher, right? So we are not inventing anything new. We are not. It's just like something from the operation side that was given to us as a feedback, and they they want to have the feature available. But we want to give the option to like users that have been with producer for 2 years. They don't want to change that behavior, so we can't change something that will impact everyone's operation. There we may have people that prefer to use producer in the way it is today, and there may be people that want to use in the new way, in this new capability. So that's why we always, when we think about a new feature that will have impact on everyone, we want to give them the option to say, do I want to use that or not? So this is why it just became like a on and off option, right? You can disable the feature if you don't want to use it, or you can enable and make your operation um, more likely to the way you use other products, right? So it will make you don't need to train operators anymore. You don't need to confuse operators, right? Because this is a big cost today. Is training people is very cost. There is a
Yeah.
very big cost associated to that. So sometimes making some change to the product will avoid like spending tons of dollars with training. So that this is one of the ideas that came that we always try to have that in mind.
So can you turn it on? Can you show us how that works? That double click? Because I haven't seen this before.
Yeah, it will, of course, it will change what we are showing here. So basically, for example, I will cut directly this one to PGM, right? So it's just a double click and we'll go directly to PGM.
Oh
That's it.
wow.
So I don't need anymore to go through the whole like cut to preview and then you need to do a video cut or something like that. But I mean, of course, it's always based on the preference of the user.
Yeah, that's really handy. How that all works out. Can you switch it back to us real quick? So I
Yep.
have a question that I wanted to kind of go over is I guess this is maybe more of an overarching question for the industry, right? And kind of where we're at with SaaS solutions and things of that nature. I mean, do you feel like you've been with TVU for 5 years now, right? AI has kind of exploded, right? And then we were talking about AI everywhere. Uh,
Yep.
do you think cloud production is it really starting to pick up steam, or do we have a lot of legacy broadcasters that are kind of nervous about adopting cloud products? What's your kind of pulse on the industry as a whole, as what I would consider a technical leader like yourself in the space?
Yeah. What I feel is that um, we have people leading the move to cloud production. We have like big customers doing that already, and they are 100% into it. But my feeling is that when you think about worldwide, there's still a lot to be done for, especially for for smaller companies, for smaller broadcaster, TV stations. It's been much more difficult for them to switch the mindset, because there may be tons of reasons for them to be in that position where they still keeping what they have in and uh, even though the investment that you would need to do for a solution like that is so small compared to uh, to the traditional way of broadcasting. But as I said, there is the whole how you train your operator, and as I said, it's people mindset, right? But I think that because, as I said, those leading companies, so we are talking about the most advanced companies, the leaders, they are so like getting into the technology, and they are not afraid of moving into that direction, that I think that eventually the small ones will also understand and follow that. Unfortunately, it's taking maybe a little bit more than we would expect, but I'm 100% sure that that's the direction.
Mateus, I want to put you on the spot for a second here, right? And um, so my question for you is, which it's more so not a question, it's a request. What message do you have for TV stations, for production companies, for broadcasters that are afraid to implement cloud remote production solutions, whether it's our products or any products as a whole, right? And again, what's the Mateus message for people who are like, I don't think cloud's taking off, right? What's the thought?
I would say don't be afraid. Uh, like it's not, it's not a uh, will. It's not a matter of will cloud production happen. It's like when do we need to switch to that, right? Like, so my point is the 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 solution is ready. We don't need to wait anymore for like, oh, it's not as robust as my on-premise switcher and all the equipments I have. There is no. This is not a discussion anymore. We are ready for cloud production. We have solutions. We have flexible solutions that will give you much more capability that you can imagine, right? Uh, that's one of the advantages of cloud. You can go, you can think about something now, and and be able to have it ready for you in 2 hours. So when would you be able to do that with a on-premises solution, right? It's almost impossible. So with cloud, all you need is click a button and you're ready to go. Um, so it's just infinity resources, infinity scalability, and functionalities, features, and it's just getting better. It won't. It's just like what we can expect from solutions like Producer is always getting better. There is no, you know, going, uh, you know, backwards. It's just like think about the future and thinking about what else can we achieve with the solution, right? So, um, you know, we are very excited about the position we are in now and with the future as well.
Yeah, and I think, not to pat ourselves on the back or anything, but I was floored when I first found out that TVU Producer has been in development for 5, 6, 7 years, right? Like that's huge to me. There are a lot of things that competitors that are bringing up different things, and they're behind the eight ball, right? We
Yeah.
are we've been in the space, and it's very, very, very exciting to kind of see all of this. And I do think, and I've only been at TVU for, I guess, about 9 months now, the growth of TVU Producer, and not just Producer as the product, but all of the microservices that have been added to it. When I talk to customers, when I talk to potential customers, whether or not it's the right moment for them to adopt it, that's sometimes out of our hands, right?
Hmm.
They are always very excited about what's possible. And hats off to you. I mean, you said it beautifully. I feel like that's just the best time to end it. Is your call to action for people to come and hang out. But Mateus, anything else you want to add before we take us home?
I would just say, again, I don't want to take any credits by myself. There is an awesome team behind the solutions that we have in TVU. And we put all our efforts on making a successful product, a product that will, be liked by the customers, that will be used by the customers. So that's our goal. Our goal is to make customers happy and successful as we want to be.
That's huge. Mateus, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day talking engineers, planning, user stories, all of that. I know all the product managers are so busy. So thank you for that. And always, everyone, thank you so much for watching. If you're not already following us on all of our social media accounts, not sub to us on YouTube, take a few seconds, hit the big red button below, and we will see you guys next time.
Yeah. Thank you, Josh, and thank you, everyone.